윈스턴, 처칠, 내 명언, 듣기.
Winston Churchill 1874–1965 British Prime Minister during World War II. Sir Winston Churchill was a British statesman, military leader, and orator. Best known for his leadership during World War II. The main achievements are as follows. Leadership during World War II. Churchill's most notable achievement was his leadership as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II. His resolute determination and inspiring speeches helped rally the British people and the Allies against Nazi Germany. He played a key role in the strategic decisions that eventually led to the defeat of the Axis powers. Defiance and resilience. Churchill's famous speeches, such as the "We shall fight on the beaches" speech, captured the spirit of defiance and resilience during the darkest days of the war. His ability to inspire and motivate the British population, as well as people around the world, played a crucial role in maintaining morale and determination. Formation of Allied strategy. Churchill played an instrumental role in forming strategies and alliances with other Allied nations. He collaborated closely with U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin, participating in high-level conferences that shaped the course of the war and post-war world. Iron Curtain speech. In 1946, Churchill delivered his famous Iron Curtain speech, warning about the growing influence of the Soviet Union in Eastern Europe and advocating for a united front to resist its expansion. This speech is often seen as a precursor to the Cold War. Post-war statesmanship. After World War II, Churchill continued to play a significant role in international affairs. He advocated for European unity and cooperation, and his efforts contributed to the formation of the Council of Europe and discussions, leading to the eventual creation of the European Union. Legacy and impact. Churchill's legacy as a staunch defender of democracy, freedom, and human rights continues to influence leaders and thinkers worldwide. His contributions to the victory over fascism and his leadership qualities have made him an enduring symbol of strength and courage in times of adversity. Let's hear Winston Churchill's famous quotes. "If you're going through hell, keep going. Now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. But it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. If we open a quarrel between past and present, we shall find that we have lost the future. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. Never, never, never give up. I may be drunk, miss, but in the morning I will be sober. And you will still be ugly. I may be drunk, miss." The sentence begins with a humorous acknowledgement that the speaker, presumably Churchill, might be intoxicated at the moment. This sets a casual and straightforward tone for the statement. But in the morning I will be sober. Here, the speaker is suggesting that despite their current state of drunkenness, they will eventually sober up by the morning. This implies a temporary condition that will change. And you will still be ugly. This is the punchline of the sentence and the source of its humor. The speaker is addressing someone, the miss mentioned at the beginning, and bluntly remarking that the person's unattractiveness will remain unchanged even after the speaker's drunkenness wears off. It's a playful insult that employs the contrast between the speaker's drunkenness a temporary state, and the person's perceived unattractiveness a more lasting characteristic. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. You can always count on Americans to do the right thing, after they've tried everything else. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it. Ignorance may deride it. But in the end, there it is. The price of greatness is responsibility. I am fond of pigs. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals. History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. The farther backward you can look, the farther forward you can see. All the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. Kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. If Hitler invaded hell, I would make at least a favorable reference to the devil. In the House of Commons. If Hitler invaded hell. The sentence starts with a hypothetical scenario where even the most extreme situation occurs. Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany and responsible for countless atrocities, invades a place as terrible as hell itself. I would make at least a favorable reference to the devil in the House of Commons. Here, Churchill is using strong irony to make a point. He's saying that if even the unimaginable happened, and Hitler invaded hell, he would find something positive to say about the devil himself when addressing the British Parliament, the House of Commons. It underscores his determination to rally his countrymen against the threat posed by Nazi Germany, suggesting that he would use any argument, even an absurd one, to maintain unity and resolve in the face of a dire situation. I am an optimist. It does not seem too much use being anything else. In wartime, truth is that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. The sentence is a quote attributed to Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II. This quote suggests that during times of war, it is crucial to protect and safeguard the truth with a layer of deception or misinformation, the bodyguard of lies. In the context of war, where strategies, plans, and information are often sensitive and can have life and death consequences, the idea is that revealing the complete truth can sometimes be detrimental to the overall war effort. Therefore, it may be necessary to surround the truth with false or misleading information to confuse the enemy, protect important secrets, and ensure the success of military operations.
Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory, there is no survival. Nothing in life is so exhilarating as to be shot at without result. I am always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. We have always found the Irish a bit odd. They refuse to be English. My most brilliant achievement was my ability to be able to persuade my wife to marry me. An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it will eat him last. We are masters of the unsaid words, but slaves of those we let slip out.
We are masters of the unsaid words. This part of the sentence suggests that people often possess the ability to withhold or keep certain thoughts, feelings, or words to themselves. People are skilled at choosing what not to say and can exercise control over their spoken language. But slaves of those we let slip out. In contrast, this part emphasizes that even though people might be careful with their speech, there are times when they inadvertently reveal thoughts or feelings they intended to keep hidden. These words that slip out can have significant consequences and can reveal truths or emotions that were meant to be concealed. Overall, the sentence speaks to the intricacies of human communication and the tension between what is expressed and what is concealed.
It is no use saying, "We are doing our best." You have got to succeed in doing what is necessary. I am prepared to meet my Maker. Whether my Maker is prepared for the great ordeal of meeting me is another matter. If you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever. You driver. Hit the point once. Then come back and hit it again. Then hit it a third time, a tremendous whack.
If you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever. This part of the sentence suggests that when you have something significant to convey, it's best not to use overly subtle or clever tactics to get your message across. Being straightforward and clear is more effective in such situations. Use a pile driver. The image of a pile driver is used metaphorically here. A pile driver is a heavy machine used in construction to drive piles into the ground with great force. In this context, it means employing a direct and forceful approach to convey your point. Hit the point once. Then come back and hit it again. Then hit it a third time. A tremendous whack. This part of the sentence emphasizes the importance of repetition and emphasis. It suggests that you should present your important point in a clear and strong manner. Then reiterate it multiple times to ensure that your audience grasps its significance.
The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries. This is no time for ease and comfort. It is time to dare and endure. We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. Ending a sentence with a preposition is something up with which I will not put.
In standard English grammar, it is considered more formal to avoid ending sentences with prepositions, such as with, to, in, etc. Instead, you would rephrase the sentence to place the preposition elsewhere in the sentence. For example, you might say, "I will not put up with something like that." The humorous twist in the sentence provided comes from the deliberate attempt to avoid ending with a preposition by placing up with which before "I will not put."
I never worry about action, but only inaction. It is a mistake to look too far ahead. Only one link of the chain of destiny can be handled at a time. No one can guarantee in war, but only deserve it. A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject. To build may have to be the slow and laborious task of years. To destroy can be the thoughtless act of a single day. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Mr. Attlee is a very modest man. Indeed, he has a lot to be modest about. The humor lies in the ironic contrast between the first and second parts of the sentence. While the first part seems to offer a compliment, the second part undercuts it by implying that there isn't much to be boastful about in Mr. Attlee's accomplishments. It's a clever and somewhat sarcastic way of expressing a less than glowing opinion about someone. History is written by the victors. Politics is not a game. It is an earnest business. It is a good thing for an uneducated man to read books of quotations. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
True genius resides in the capacity for evaluation of uncertain, hazardous, and conflicting information. There is no such thing as public opinion. There is only published opinion. The empires of the future are the empires of the mind. Let our advance worrying become advanced thinking and planning.
This sentence promotes the idea that constructive action and preparation are more valuable and effective than allowing worry and anxiety to dominate one's thoughts and actions. It emphasizes the importance of taking control of one's circumstances and outcomes through thoughtful planning and forward thinking.
Solitary trees, if they grow at all, grow strong. I have taken more out of alcohol than alcohol has taken out of me. When you have to kill a man, it costs nothing to be polite. To jaw is always better than to war.
The sentence is a famous quote attributed to Winston Churchill. It conveys the idea that engaging in dialogue, negotiation, and discussion, jaw, is always preferable and more desirable than resorting to armed conflict or war. In other words, the quote emphasizes the importance of peaceful diplomacy and communication as a means to resolve disputes and conflicts, rather than choosing the path of violence and warfare. It suggests that talking and negotiating with one's adversaries or opponents, even if it takes time and effort, is a more rational and humane approach to resolving differences.
This report, by its very length, defends itself against the risk of being read.
The sentence is a clever and satirical way of criticizing a report or document for being excessively long, and potentially discouraging readers from engaging with its content. In essence, it suggests that the report's length is a form of self-defense because people are less likely to read it due to its daunting size. The implication here is that the report may contain valuable information or important details, but its sheer length makes it unappealing or inaccessible to most readers.
Without tradition, art is a flock of sheep without a shepherd. Without innovation, it is a corpse. Difficulties mastered are opportunities won. Never hold discussions with the monkey when the organ grinder is in the room.
The sentence is a figurative expression that conveys the idea of not wasting time or effort engaging in a conversation or argument with a subordinate or lower-ranking person when the person who holds the real power or authority is present. In this metaphor, the organ grinder represents the person in control or the decision-maker, while the monkey symbolizes someone who is just an instrument or follower of the more influential individual. The advice is to address or negotiate with the person who has the authority to make decisions or affect the outcome, rather than dealing with someone who doesn't have the power to make meaningful changes.
Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it is the quality which guarantees all others. Play the game for more than you can afford to lose. Only then will you learn the game. Some people regard private enterprise as a predatory tiger to be shot. Others look on it as a cow they can milk. Not enough people see it as a healthy horse, pulling a sturdy wagon. Men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most of them pick themselves up and hurry off as if nothing had happened. We contend that for a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself up by the handle.
This sentence is a metaphorical way of expressing skepticism about a particular economic or fiscal policy. Tax itself into prosperity suggests the idea that a government might believe it can stimulate economic growth and prosperity by imposing higher taxes on its citizens and businesses. Like a man standing in a bucket describes a situation where an individual is inside a bucket, which would make it impossible for them to lift themselves because they would be lifting the bucket along with them. Trying to lift himself up by the handle emphasizes the futility of the action. The handle of the bucket is the equivalent of the tax policy in this metaphor, implying that trying to achieve prosperity through higher taxation is as impractical as trying to lift oneself while holding onto the handle of a bucket. In essence, this sentence is critical of the idea that increasing taxes alone can lead to economic prosperity.
Criticism may not be agreeable, but it is necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things. I am easily satisfied with the very best. There are two things that are more difficult than making an after-dinner speech: climbing a wall, which is leaning toward you, and kissing a girl who is leaning away from you.
This sentence is a humorous and somewhat playful way of highlighting the challenges and potential awkwardness in certain situations. The sentence uses humor to playfully compare the difficulties of making an after-dinner speech to these physical and romantic challenges. It implies that while giving a speech can be nerve-wracking, it's not as awkward or challenging as the scenarios described.
A politician needs the ability to foretell what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year. And to have the ability afterwards to explain why it didn't happen. Battles are won by slaughter and maneuver. The greater the general, the more he contributes in maneuver, the less he demands in slaughter.
The sentence goes on to explain that a great military leader or general excels in the aspect of maneuvering their forces effectively. In other words, a skilled general can achieve victory with fewer casualties, less slaughter, because they are adept at strategic planning, positioning, and making the right moves on the battlefield.
One ought never to turn one's back on a threatened danger and try to run away from it. If you do that, you will double the danger. But if you meet it promptly and without flinching, you will reduce the danger by half. Never run away from anything. Never. War is a game that is played with a smile. If you can't smile, grin. If you can't grin, keep out of the way till you can. Want of foresight, unwillingness to act when action would be simple and effective, lack of clear thinking. Confusion of counsel until the emergency comes, until self-preservation strikes its jarring gong. These are the features which constitute the endless repetition of history.
We are all worms. But I believe that I am a glowworm.
This sentence is a metaphorical statement that conveys a sense of self-perception and self-worth. We are all worms. This part of the sentence suggests that, in a general sense, all people are humble or insignificant. It's a metaphorical way of saying that humans, like worms, are small and unremarkable in the grand scheme of things. This phrase implies a sense of self-deprecation or modesty. But I believe that I am a glowworm. In contrast to the first part, this part of the sentence introduces a positive twist. A glowworm is a type of insect that emits a soft light, often seen as a symbol of something special or unique. So, by saying they believe themselves to be a glowworm, the speaker is asserting their belief in their own uniqueness or special qualities, despite the general sense of humility expressed in the first part.
Great and good are seldom the same man. It has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except all the others that have been tried. He has all of the virtues I dislike and none of the vices I admire. We shall draw from the heart of suffering itself the means of inspiration and survival. Personally, I'm always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. It was the nation and the race dwelling all round the globe that had the lion's heart. I had the luck to be called upon to give the roar.
This sentence is figurative and conveys a sense of pride, responsibility, and the idea of playing a significant role in a larger context, possibly during a critical moment in history. It was the nation and the race dwelling all round the globe that had the lion's heart. This part of the sentence suggests that the entire nation and the entire human race, spread across the world, possessed great courage and bravery, symbolized here as having the lion's heart. The phrase, lion's heart, is often used to describe someone or a group of people who are exceptionally courageous and fearless. I had the luck to be called upon to give the roar. In contrast to the first part, this part of the sentence indicates that the speaker, while recognizing the collective courage of their nation and race, had the fortunate opportunity to play a specific role. In this context, giving the roar means to step up and demonstrate leadership or courage during a critical moment or challenge.
Short words are best, and the old words when short are best of all. When the war of the giants is over, the wars of the pygmies will begin. Everyone has his day, and some days last longer than others. If you have 10,000 regulations, you destroy all respect for the law. No comment is a splendid expression. I am using it again and again. Never give in, never, 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 in nothing great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Before Alamein we never had a victory. After Alamein we never had a defeat.
This sentence is a historical reference and is often attributed to British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. It pertains to a significant turning point in World War II and carries a powerful message about the impact of a single battle on the course of the war. Before Alamein we never had a victory. This part of the sentence is referring to the period before the Second Battle of El Alamein, which took place in Egypt in 1942 during World War II. It suggests that prior to this battle, the Allied forces, particularly the British, had not experienced many decisive victories against the Axis powers. The phrase, before Alamein, represents a time of struggle and defeats. After Alamein we never had a defeat. In contrast, this part of the sentence suggests that after the Second Battle of El Alamein, the tide of the war shifted in favor of the Allies. It was a decisive victory for the Allies, particularly the British Eighth Army led by General Bernard Montgomery, over the Axis forces commanded by Erwin Rommel.
When I am abroad, I always make it a rule never to criticize or attack the government of my own country. I make up for lost time when I come home.
When I am abroad, I always make it a rule never to criticize or attack the government of my own country. This part of the sentence indicates that when the speaker is in a foreign country or away from their homeland, they have a personal rule or policy of refraining from criticizing or openly opposing the government of their own country. This can be seen as a form of diplomacy or loyalty to their home country while on foreign soil. I make up for lost time when I come home, in contrast. This part of the sentence suggests that the speaker compensates for their restraint while abroad by becoming more outspoken and critical of their own government when they return home. In other words, they use the time in their own country to voice their opinions and concerns freely, as they had refrained from doing so while abroad.
What kind of people do they think we are? Is it possible they do not realize that we shall never cease to persevere against them until they have been taught a lesson which they and the world will never forget? Those who can win a war well can rarely make a good peace, and those who could make a good peace would never have won the war. Perhaps it is better to be irresponsible and right than to be responsible and wrong. In the course of my life, I have often had to eat my words, and I must confess that I have always found it a wholesome diet. It is a fine thing to be honest, but it is also very important to be right. In war as in life, it is often necessary when some cherished scheme has failed, to take up the best alternative open, and if so, it is folly not to work for it with all your might. I like a man who grins when he fights. The power of an air force is terrific when there is nothing to oppose it. The first quality that is needed is audacity. If you go on with this nuclear arms race, all you are going to do is make the rubble bounce.
This sentence is a warning about the destructive consequences of continuing a nuclear arms race. It suggests that if countries continue to compete in building and stockpiling nuclear weapons, it will ultimately lead to catastrophic war and widespread devastation, reducing cities to rubble.
Study history. Study history. In history lies all the secrets of statecraft. Christmas is a season not only of rejoicing but of reflection.
Meeting Franklin Roosevelt was like opening your first bottle of champagne. Knowing him was like drinking it. This sentence uses a metaphor to convey that the experience of meeting Franklin Roosevelt was exciting and exhilarating, like the initial burst of opening a bottle of champagne. However, getting to know him over time was even more enjoyable and satisfying, like savoring and drinking the champagne. I'm just preparing my impromptu remarks. This sentence humorously suggests that the speaker is planning or rehearsing their impromptu remarks, which are supposed to be spontaneous and unprepared. It highlights the irony of preparing for something that should be spontaneous. Too often the strong, silent man is silent only because he does not know what to say, and is reputed strong only because he has remained silent. No idea is so outlandish that it should not be considered with a searching but at the same time a steady eye. This sentence encourages open-mindedness and careful consideration of even the most unconventional or bizarre ideas. It suggests that all ideas, no matter how unusual, should be examined thoughtfully and without prejudice. My rule of life prescribed as an absolutely sacred right. Smoking cigars and also the drinking of alcohol before, after and if need be during all meals and in the intervals between them. Winston Churchill's statement humorously emphasizes his personal enjoyment of cigars and alcohol as integral and sacred rituals in his daily life, suggesting that he takes great pleasure in these habits. A prisoner of war is a man who tries to kill you and fails, and then asks you not to kill him. My wife and I tried 2 or 3 times in the last 40 years to have breakfast together, but it was so disagreeable we had to stop. I have never developed indigestion from eating my words. Sure I am of this, that you have only to endure to conquer. India is a geographical term. It is no more a united nation than the equator. In this statement, Winston Churchill is suggesting that the term, India, is primarily a geographic descriptor, referring to a vast and diverse landmass. He argues that it doesn't represent a unified nation in the same way that the equator, which is simply an imaginary line, doesn't unite different regions or countries. Churchill is highlighting the diversity and complexity of India, which consists of various cultures, languages, and regions, and may not be easily characterized as a single, cohesive nation. Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. In this famous quote by Winston Churchill, he is expressing his commitment and determination to give everything he has, including hard work and personal sacrifice, to the effort of leading his country through challenging times, particularly during World War II. He is essentially saying that he can offer nothing more than his dedication and effort in the face of adversity. There are a terrible lot of lies going about the world, and the worst of it is that half of them are true. If the human race wishes to have a prolonged and indefinite period of material prosperity, they have only got to behave in a peaceful and helpful way toward one another. Man will occasionally stumble over the truth, but most of the time he will pick himself up and continue on. It is more agreeable to have the power to give than to receive. We are stripped bare by the curse of plenty. The power of man has grown in every sphere, except over himself. Politics is almost as exciting as war, and quite as dangerous. In war you can only be killed once, but in politics many times. War is mainly a catalogue of blunders. When we look back on all the perils through which we have passed and at the mighty foes that we have laid low, and all the dark and deadly designs that we have frustrated, why should we fear for our future? We have come safely through the worst. These are not dark days, these are great days, the greatest days our country has ever lived. In this quote, Winston Churchill is emphasizing his belief that even though the times are challenging and filled with uncertainty, often referred to as dark days, they are also moments of great significance and opportunity. He sees the challenges faced by his country, likely during World War II, as an opportunity for greatness and resilience. Churchill is trying to inspire a sense of national unity and determination during difficult times. In war, you can only be killed once, but in politics, many times. Although prepared for martyrdom, I preferred that it be postponed. In this statement, Winston Churchill is expressing his willingness to sacrifice himself, prepared for martyrdom for a cause or principle he believes in. However, he also indicates his preference for delaying this sacrifice. In other words, while he is ready to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary, he hopes that circumstances will allow him to live longer and continue his work or mission. The problems of victory are more agreeable than those of defeat, but they are no less difficult.
오늘도 행복한 하루 보내세요. 유튜브에서 파요영어 검색으로 다른 주제 동영상도 살펴주세요. 감사합니다.